We have a new presentation of a technology invented by NVIDIA called Dlss 5. It's a fifth version of this technology, and it will be fully implemented in fall of this year, so in fall of 2026. But unfortunately for NVIDIA, which now is the biggest company creating graphic cards, because its share in market is 95% because of AMD. AMD has like 5% or maybe less. So Nvidia has a monopoly on graphic cards. And right now, we had a couple days ago Jason Huang, which is a CEO of NVIDIA, presentation of new technology called Dlss 5. And this technology caused controversy. Controversy why? Because this technology is called by community, by gamers, by users, TikTok filter slop or TikTok filter. And unfortunately for us, when we saw this presentation, and on this presentation were games like Resident Evil Requiem, Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, some FIFA from EA, and some inner presentation by NVIDIA. And most of these games, and Starfield, most of these games are quite famous. And we saw that unfortunately these changes in these games by this new technology, which is very advanced but also very energy consuming, because they were presenting it on two cards, GeForce RTX 5090. So these are the highest cards available for normal users, but they are very expensive. And the general effect is unfortunately like a filter to improve our beauty or improve beauty. And they want to improve it by a filter, so they are lying about their own appearance. But for me and for many users, it was not only that, because this filter in reality changed the look of the game. In what way? In a way that because this is the biggest problem of this technology, because it tries to put in games Marvelization of games. What is Marvelization? We know that there are movies from Marvel which are about superheroes, but they are bizarre in a way that they are like created uh, without any shadows, without any defects or natural look of the world. They are like completely saturated without any proper lighting, and the light in those movies, we see that they are fake, that this is not real, that it is invented by a computer. It's not in a real choreography of, for example, New York, or a place where this movie is taking place, but it is created by computers. Of course, they are using green screen or blue screen, but because of this fake lighting, which is very which has like a very high exposure and saturated and contrast ratio, unnatural to our own objective and subjective looking at the world. And unfortunately, this new technology is doing the same with the games. For example, we had a presentation of Hogwarts Legacy, very famous game. Angry Joe gave it 10 out of 10. Market success, very beautiful game, very climactic about world of J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, but a different story, but in the same world. And we saw that, for example, we have an old lady, and this lady with this new this DLSS 5 technology looked, her face looked oversaturated, overexposed. For example, we had a presentation of forest, and yes, this technology gave us new lightning, but this new lightning of trees, for example, looks bizarre and unnatural. When we see sun shining to the jungle, it's different than when this technology is used. And in movies before Marvel, we saw that the lightning and proper saturation of lightning, proper brightness, is important to the climate and to our perception of the movie. For example, we have on YouTube you can see a movie, a film about lightning of predator face in first predator and second predator. And we saw in this movie, we can see in this movie that for example, in first Predator, when Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dutch is for the first time seeing Predator without mask, we see that half of Predator face is in the shadow, and we cannot see it. We want to see it, we want to see more, but we cannot see. We see only half of Predator face. So this is for us interesting. We want to see more. We want to see how his full face looks. But because of these shadows, because of this proper use of lightning, his face is mysterious because it's rarely shown, but it is very well developed. We see that we can believe that such creature could fight with Dutch in South America jungle. We can believe that. But for example, when we see on a newest Predator, Predator Badlands, when all his face is shown to us without helmet even, and it is shown to the every pixel, the smallest part of his face, he looks goofy and bizarre and retarded in a way. So this overexposure of movies, this unbalanced in showing shadows, dark places. For example, this presentation show us in Hogwarts Legacy that, for example, we have like a street when wizards are discussing something, and with DLSS 5 technology, it looks like it is oversaturated and overexposure. It's like you had, let's say, 20 contrast and you put 40 contrast. You were using 20 brightness, and then after the DLSS 5 you are using 60 brightness. So all and the changes of the faces, for example, they are like almost like this. They change it like anime characters, because anime characters they are very specific. This art, manga and anime is was created by let's say Asians, but like Asians I mean Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, with crooked eyes, very small, and even though women are very considered, Asian women, very beautiful, men are considered rather ugly. And anime style is completely out of touch with the reality of how Asian men and Asian women even look, because the anime characters, they have very big eyes, very delicate faces, almost like some fake dolls after a plastic surgery or many surgeries. And this style is put into the games with DLSS 5. The best example is, for example, when we see this presentation of a character, of a female character in Resident Evil Requiem, and this is like she's like an FBI specialist, and we see that her makeup is put on her face, so she even looks more ugly, less cute, because and we because her face is also her lips are fully filled with Botox or something like that, and she looks like these Asian baby girls of dancing groups or something like that. So so unfortunately, it puts more makeup and a little bit like cute faker look, and before that she looked mysterious. The shadows were proper, that not all her face was exposure to us, were shown to us in evenly manner. This is important because in this, for example, Predator scene, we see that lightning was in that way, for example, lightning of the moon, that only one part of the face we could really see. And this is how light is working. For example, when we are recording YouTube videos, we want the best lighting and the biggest lights, because the camera and the saturation, exposure, and so on is improving. It's working when you have a rather good, well, bright room, like I, for example, here. And it could even look better with higher, more powerful bulbs. But we see that, for example, television, especially news, are such in a such fake lightning that it is unnatural. It's completely unnatural because we always need a little bit of shadow, a little bit of this grainy orange, not blue color in our seeing. There is too much cold in this DLSS cold technology, too much cold lightning, and too small use of using warm light. And warm light is especially important in games and in movies, because in games and in movies you want to feel a climate of the game. For example, I as a player always liked, and I like playing when there is dark. When, for example, there is night, sun the sun is out of sky, so there is night. So every game, every movie is with this specific night looking like vibe. It's just better, because in night we don't see any noises, it's quieter, so the climate is just better. And for example, when we are playing in games and they are like horror games, RPG games, there is a lot of dark corners or something like that. It's the best to play when there is dark, when there is some kind of a, of a even let's say dawn, or dusk, maybe even better, it's dusk. So the proper term is dusk, yes. So for example, when the sun is going down, there is dusk, and you are playing some climatic game. It's always better than playing in full lighted, overexposure room. So for example, gamers like when their room is not very bright, and when they can focus on a game. And this is very important, because this is the problem with this technology, that it is showing us that everything looks like you are in a bathroom, or like you are in a restroom. Yes, like everything is, or yeah, like you are in a hospital when everything is white, doors, doctors, appearance, nurses, they are all or blue or white, and beds are white, and the lightning is over the top. Yes, it's always in medical facilities. For example, it's a standard that everything is over exposure, very bright, unnatural, and we don't want to see it in games, in movies. The ability to use shadows, to use proper lighting, which is sometimes is bright, sometimes is dark, sometimes and it has, and the lightning can have different even like intensity, like in kelvins, for example. Lower kelvins is warm light, like looks like orange, like dark orange. More kelvins, light is very blue, and generally it's better to have these warm colors in games and in movies, because it's add to the climate and to our perception of the movie. For example, when we are in the cinema, we when we watch movie in the cinema, all lights are going down. Yes, we cannot see sometimes even ourselves in the movie, in the cinema, only the movie, because this darkness is like encompassing us into only us as a person and the heroes in the movie. No one else, no other visitors, no other moviegoers, and so on. So this is important. This can be subjective, because some people can prefer different way of watching movies, but this is the general idea. Yes, that, for example, we are putting curtains when we want to watch movie, and so on. So this technology, for example, in Hogwarts, it's oversaturated all, and all this and also this mystery about wizards, about sorcery, and so on. For example, in Resident Evil Requiem, it's a horror game, and you want to see that this FBI specialist is like Asian baby girl, but with many procedures to her makeup, to her lips, filled with Botox, and so on. It's not the way, and she even looks uglier in that way, because in reality, for example, I often see that girls without makeup, or with delicate makeup, look more natural and more beautiful than when they are using makeup. Because in makeup they can, for example, let's say, not showing us her pimples or something like that, but this makeup makes her look very fake and very plasticky. So it's unnatural, and it's also not real in a way, because it's just a makeup. And for example, we saw these forests, and they lost their own unique characters, like these big jungles. When you have shadows, yes, because in vast jungles, when you, for example, are walking in these jungles, you cannot, the sunbeam is not everywhere. The sun cannot put through the jungle, for example. We saw this explanation in Lord of the Rings Hobbit. When they were in Mirkwood, they couldn't see many things, because the forest was so vast, the trees were so big, that they just close ability to see sun, and it was very climactic in this way. So this DLSS technology, Jason Huang said that it completely improves games on any level, but reality it's filter, a natural filter which is showing us people in very bizarre way. So we have, for example, memes like the maybe the most famous one when we have Kratos from new God of War games, and he looks after after this DLSS technology like a plastic male doll with filled lips. Very good parody of how the LSS 5 technology is changing the look of the characters in a in an uglier way, because they think that they are looking more beautiful, but in reality they looked more oversaturated, more exposed to light and to fake light. Like for example, we have in Hogwarts Legacy this guy which was about, I don't know, 25 or something like that, very young, and next to him very old guy. And they, after using this technology and before this technology, we see that they look natural. Yes, they look like normal people. But after this technology, they are looking goofy, to the point that they are almost like a parody of characters, because these young characters look plasticky, like he put a cream on its cheeks and he didn't put it properly, and we see that the blush is still there, and the old character looks a little bit like Gargamel, a little bit like some old guy, but goofy, bizarre like. Because before this technology, he looked like an old man, like an old man with white hair, wrinkles, big nose, raven-like nose, and so on. And after that, he looked just goofy. The only game I would say which was looking better it was Starfield, but even Todd Howard, the CEO of Bethesda, or the leader of Bethesda, said that they will be using it in new games, and it will be used in remaster Oblivion. But for him, it's a good experience because Bethesda always couldn't do and cannot do proper looking characters. So for them, yes, DLSS 5 improved them. They look also like plastic dolls, but they look a little bit more complicated, more advanced. Models look more advanced, but it is because of the poor graphics in Bethesda, and all Bethesda games looks ugly. For example, I cannot play Fallout 3 because Bethesda changed Fallout completely because of using 3D technology, and they should focus on this 2.5D isometric view of Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics. But they decided no, we will use full 3D models, and these models, even when I saw for the first time Fallout 3, there were two things which were completely unacceptable for me. This open world, which I didn't know what to do, but even more important was that the world, the graphic of characters and of environment looked terrible. It looks like people from 30 years ago were making a 3D game. It looked horrible. So for Starfield characters, yes, because of the poor graphic design, Starfield characters look a little bit better. But even footballers in this EA presentation, they they looked they looked overexposed and oversaturated, so they looked unnatural. I can myself put brightness from 20 to 50 and in contrast ratio from 20 to 50, and I will say that I can I can see more on their faces. But is it improvement? Of course not. This is not improvement. The shadows, the darkness, it's a very important factor of our interpretation of the game. For example, I see this problem with modern games, that games are lighter, more bright than they were 10, 20 years ago. They are more bright. Even, for example, when I'm comparing, let's say, games like Mass Effect 1 from 2006 to modern games like even Andromeda from 2017, but for example later Veilguard, Dragon Age Veilguard from 2024, all these games are really bright, and those special effects are even brighter, and brighter doesn't mean better, because they think that because everything is shiny and everything is glittering, so game looks cooler, looks better, and this is not the case. It doesn't. For example, there is a game, Guild Wars, and in Guild Wars the best looking weapons, they glitter a little bit. Chaos Access even glitter a lot, but only the best items, the rarest items in the game could glitter. Only those. And vast majority of items couldn't. And right now we see that everything is glitter, because if something is glitter, this is cool, this is the best, this is badass, so let's use it. And for example, right now I'm playing Baldur's Gate 1 and I see that this game is really dark. It is really dark. And this darkness is building the climate of the game. The natural, for example, when I'm in a cave or in a dark forest, I cannot see everything, and I cannot see lightning more light and more bright than it is in reality. So games look more real when they look a little bit toned down, a little bit dark. For example, when we are playing in GTA games, and we see that even though there is dusk, there is dawn, there is night, it's not oversaturated, and we can still see pretty much everything, but in a more climactic way, not just in a worse way. So the aspect of the night, the aspect of darkness is really important. For example, when we are playing very good RPG games like Vampire Masquerade Redemption or Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines, the aspect of playing in the night is really important. And right now, I see that, for example, we have a game which is quite good, Lost Ark, which also has the same problem. You can even put most of these effects off. It's so bizarrely oversaturated. For example, abilities. They look really good, very cool, very good graphic, but they are so over the top with lightning that I cannot see anything. And these lightning effects, for example, because I'm very keen to light. So for example, you see that I have dark glasses on my normal glasses, because for me I'm especially vulnerable to bright light, even to normal light. But maybe the best way to show how games are brighter, but you can see less in them, so they have more like glitter and flashing lights, but in reality you see less and less. I don't know if this is because of this ambient occlusion or some different technology. I'm not sure. But for example, the best way to see this, that games are brighter and you see less in them, is a franchise, very famous franchise of Borderlands. Borderlands 1, for example, for me right now, are the best in the series. I didn't play in 6, but I don't think 6 or 5 called, but it is in reality 6 is better than 1. Because in first Borderlands game, I could see almost everything, even though we have effects like poison, like chemical weapons, like fire weapons, like exploding weapons, like electrical weapons which can zap you, and they were flashy. You see those special effects, but still I could see every of my opponents. I had troubles because Borderlands has a quite chaotic fight, and enemies can surround you. So it was a little bit chaotic, but I could see everything. And for example, for me, even though I would say that in Borderlands 5 we have the best abilities, very well developed, even better than in first one, I couldn't finish it. I finished it very fast with my brother, but I couldn't focus on it and for example improve my characters, farm these games, because it's so flashy. You can you In almost every fight you cannot barely you can't even see your bullets, your rifle, your enemies, even those who are straight in front of you. You cannot see them because everything is flashy. Even your hat can be in flames. So this oversaturation, overexposure, overusing flash effects are not, because they are also dangerous for our eyes. Yes, because they are flashy. Like for example, right now in Diablo 2 Resurrected, I cannot play with my lightning sorceress because this light is so bright, and I'm not a normal person because I'm a disabled person. So this over fragility of my eyes is not seen in normal casual gamers. But still, I have friends which they are even using, for example, monitors with VA matrix, so very high contrast, or OLED monitors with infinite contrast, and they even said that, for example, they stopped playing Borderlands 5 because it was so bright. He couldn't see anything. He couldn't see anything. His eyes were fatigued. He couldn't see anything. And this is the problem, that in first Borderlands from 2009 you can see every item in the game, because for example the very Borderlands created because it's a very famous game, because it combined FPS shooters with RPG elements very successfully. And you have, for example, many abilities, and these abilities you can see the use of them in normal game. So this is very interesting, that you have an RPG characters in first person shooter, and the skill tree is very well developed. Those squares are really big. You can see every element on them, every graphic, every icon is properly shown us in the game. But in, for example, I saw this even in second Borderlands, which was, I think, even more successful than first one, that the abilities are, let's say, a little bit better, they work a little bit more advanced than in first Borderlands, but I cannot see the proper use of them, and I cannot see properly even these icons, these graphics of the HUD, of the UI of my guns. I cannot properly see them like they were after some kind of fog or a mirror, which is a little bit distorting our view and our image. And it was really bizarre for me why these abilities and these characters, they are not properly shown to us. Because sometimes I'm fighting with some bosses, and those bosses are using such over the top abilities that I cannot see a boss himself, because these abilities are not over the top in a good way in this case, but in a bad way, that you cannot see anything because they are only flashing and flashing very brightly, very bright, with very bright colors. So, for example, if you want to see this specifically, you should play Borderlands 1, then Borderlands 2, then Borderlands prequel, which is third installment, then Borderlands 3. You will see it in a very specific way how games are brighter and brighter, but you see less items, less everything in them. So what's the point of doing the game bright if I cannot see anything? I cannot see anything, and I can, for example, do a longer breaks-ups after playing this game, because I cannot see anything, only flash, flash, flash. Right. I want to do my little review of Crimson Desert, a very popular right now game, and for example, for me, it was a very good implementation of graphics. The graphic in Crimson Desert, or also because in game is it's fairly good received, like 78, 79, but not everyone is pleased with this game, so even investors, because they thought that it will be it will be a little higher, like 80s, 85 and so on. But the graphic in the game, I saw maybe like an hour of gameplay on a very good 32 VA curved monitor, and it looked really good. Characters, lightning, and so on. Besides a tree, besides lawn. Oh my god, I forgot English word for this green. Grass looked too bright, too unnatural, but everything else, mountains, deserts, peaks of some cold mountains, really impressive. Graphic is really impressive. I would say that it is even beautifuler than newest Assassin's Creed. Really beautiful game, really, and not overexposured. You can see every aspect of your character: shield, armor, your cloak. Very good physics of, for example, our cloak binding and working with environment, with wind and so on. Really good example of showing us, for example, when you mine something, you see the different crystals, different ores and so on. So the graphic is really impressive and not over the top, not very bright to the point that you cannot see anything else except this brightness, which should look cool, but it is not. The same problem is, for example, with Diablo 4 abilities. They are flashy to the point that you cannot focus on your enemies because you cannot see your enemies, because the abilities are so flashy. Okay, so I would say that DLSS 5 is making our games looking more Marvelish, and we should abandon this way of doing new technologies. Nvidia should abandon it, because it's not improving games, it's even degenerating them, because it's making games look similar. Because this technology is also looking characters from different games, different genres, like let's say Starfield and Resident Evil Requiem, like they are looking similar to each other. Like characters from different games, different genres, different climates, different lores, and so on, looked almost alike. So it's also another dangerous example how it can put and implement Marvelization of games to our world. Let me know in the comments what do you think about this DLSS 5 technology.